John Miller yawned as he stared at the monitors in the dimly lit control room of the Pluto Deep Space Array. His 12-hour shift was almost over, and nothing interesting had happened as usual. The massive array of radio telescopes that extended across Pluto's dark surface had been silent for months. John took a sip of his synthetic coffee and grimaced at the taste. 2 more hours, he muttered to himself, rubbing his tired eyes. The computer console suddenly lit up with a series of alerts. John nearly spilled his coffee as he sat up straight. The main screen showed an unusual pattern of signals coming from somewhere beyond Neptune's orbit. What the hell? John whispered, quickly typing commands to focus the array on the signal source. The pattern repeated itself, too regular to be natural cosmic noise. John's heart raced as he realized what he might be looking at. He pressed the emergency communication button. "This is Communications Specialist Miller at Pluto Station. I need to speak with Dr. Owens immediately." Dr. Lisa Owens was sleeping when the call came through to her quarters on Europa Research Station. She had been working for 15 years on possible alien language structures, but so far all her work had been theoretical. When she saw the signal pattern John sent her, she immediately knew this was different. "Miller, have you told anyone else about this?" she asked, already getting dressed. "No, ma'am. Protocol says to contact you first." "Good. Keep monitoring and recording everything. I'm heading to Earth on the next transport. Send all data directly to my secure server." Within 24 hours, the United Nations Space Command, headquarters in Geneva, was buzzing with activity. Dr. Owens stood before a room of military and civilian leaders, pointing at the signal pattern displayed on the wall screen. "It's a language. Complex but with clear mathematical foundations," she explained. "What's more, it's directed specifically at our solar system. They know we're here." General Carl Peterson frowned. "Are you saying we've been discovered by aliens?" "I'm saying we've been contacted by them," Dr. Owens corrected. "And based on the signal strength, they're getting closer." Ambassador Kevin Daniels was called in from his diplomatic post on Mars. At 57, he had negotiated peace between Earth and the Mars colonists during the resource wars of 2149. If anyone could handle first contact with an alien species, the leadership believed it would be him. "We need to prepare a response," Daniels said after being briefed. "Dr. Owens, how long until you can translate enough to send a message back?" "With the patterns we've identified, maybe 3 days," she replied. "You have 2, said the UN Secretary. "General, humanity's first impression matters." The next week was a blur of activity across the solar system. Military vessels were quietly moved into defensive positions. Earth governments prepared their populations for the news. Dr. Owens worked day and night with her team to create a message of peace and welcome. 17 days after John Miller's discovery, the alien ship appeared just beyond Jupiter's orbit. It was massive, nearly 2 miles long, with a sleek design that reminded some observers of ancient sea creatures from Earth. Smaller vessels surrounded it in a protective formation. "They're hailing us on the same frequency we use to respond to them," John reported from his station, now considered the most important communications post in the solar system. The first visual contact came through on screens across human space. The aliens called themselves the Vakari. They appeared humanoid but taller and thinner, with skin that shifted colors slightly as they moved. Their eyes were large, with vertical pupils that gave them a perpetually calm expression. Ambassador Daniels led the human delegation on the space station Harmony, positioned in neutral space between Earth and the Vakari fleet. Security Chief Grace Bennett stood slightly behind him, her hand never far from her sidearm. "Welcome to our solar system," Daniels said with a practiced smile. "We are honored by your visit and look forward to peaceful exchange between our peoples." The Vakari representative tilted its head slightly. "Your welcome is acknowledged, though somewhat primitive in its execution. We have observed your kind for some time." Grace noticed how the translator gave the alien's words a slight condescending tone, but Daniels maintained his diplomatic composure. "We have much to learn from each other," Daniels replied smoothly. "Indeed. Though primarily you from us," the Vakari said. "Your species has potential, despite your technological limitations. We have helped many developing species reach their proper place in the galactic community. The meeting continued for hours. The Vakari spoke of their vast empire spanning hundreds of star systems. They described how they brought order and progress to less developed species. Throughout the conversation, Grace noticed how they never quite treated the human delegation as equals. After the initial contact, the Vakari established an embassy vessel in Earth orbit. More of their ships arrived each day, positioning themselves near key human outposts across the solar system. 1 month after first contact, the Vakari ambassador requested a private meeting with Earth's Leadership Council. Ambassador Daniels sat at the center of the human side of the table, with Dr. Owens and several world leaders beside him. "We have observed enough to make a determination," the Vakari ambassador announced. "Humanity qualifies for protected status within the Vakari consensus." Daniels maintained his pleasant expression. "And what exactly does protected status entail?" The Vakari placed a crystal device on the table that projected a complex document in both their language and English. This protection agreement outlines the terms. You will provide resources according to the scheduled quotas. You will adapt your technologies to our standards. You will accept Vakari guidance in all interstellar matters. In exchange, you receive our protection and limited access to certain approved technologies. Dr. Owens quickly scanned the document, her face growing pale. This would give them control over our mining operations, military, and even population. "Growth," she whispered to Daniels. Ambassador Daniels kept his composure perfect. "This is certainly comprehensive. We'll need time to review these terms properly." The Vakari made a gesture that their cultural attaché had explained was equivalent to a dismissive wave. "Of course. You have 30 standard days to consider our generous offer before alternatives must be explored." After the Vakari left, the room erupted in angry voices. General Peterson slammed his fist on the table. "They're not offering an alliance. They're demanding submission." Daniels raised his hand for silence. "Let's not jump to conclusions. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with." Grace Bennett, who had stood silently guarding the door, finally spoke. "Sir, during the entire meeting, their guards never relaxed their stance. In security terms, that's not how you act with allies, that's how you act with subjects." Daniels nodded slowly. "Then we'll proceed carefully. We'll smile. We'll negotiate. We'll ask for modifications to their terms." He looked around the room at Earth's leadership. "And while we do that, I suggest we quietly prepare for less diplomatic outcomes." As the human delegation filed out, Dr. Owens approached Daniels. "I don't think they understand us any better than we understand them," she said quietly. "They see our politeness as weakness." "Then that's their first mistake," Daniels replied. "Let's hope it's not their last." 3 weeks had passed since the Vakari presented their protection agreement to humanity. Ambassador Kevin Daniels spent his days in endless meetings with the alien representatives, smiling politely while asking for small changes to the agreement. Each night he returned to his quarters exhausted. "Any progress today?" asked Dr. Lisa Owens when they met for their private daily briefing. Daniels loosened his collar and sighed. They agreed to reduce the resource quota by 2%, called it a generous accommodation to our primitive economic needs. Lisa frowned. "They're just playing with us." "I know," Daniels said, "but we need time." Aboard the USS Defiant at the edge of the solar system, Navy Captain Eric Taylor watched his radar screen with growing concern. The Vakari had positioned their ships at key points throughout human space, near Mars colonies, the mining operations at Jupiter's moons, and the fuel depots around Saturn. "They're setting up a cage," he told his first officer. "Positioning themselves so they could cut off all our major settlements from each other if they wanted to." "Should we report this to command?" the officer asked. "Already did," Taylor replied. "We keep watching and we keep our weapons hot, but we don't make any moves they could see as aggressive." At the United Nations Space Command headquarters on Earth, Dr. Alan Brooks hunched over his desk surrounded by historical texts and data displays. As a military historian, he had been tasked with finding patterns in the Vakari's approach. "General Harris," Brooks called as the commanding officer passed his office. "I found something you need to see." General Diane Harris entered and closed the door behind her. "What is it, Brooks?" "I've been comparing the Vakari diplomatic language with historical Earth empires. Their approach matches exactly how they've subjugated other species." Brooks pointed to his screen. "Look at these phrases. From their communications with the Zentari system 80 years ago, then with the Polaris Confederation 30 years ago." General Harris studied the patterns. "And where are these civilizations now?" "The Zentari are a client state providing labor and resources. The Polaris Confederation doesn't exist anymore. Their planets are now Vakari administrative territories." Harris's face darkened. "Send this directly to Ambassador Daniels and the Secretary General. I'm implementing Phase 2 preparations, effective immediately." At the North American Intelligence Center, analyst Samantha Wright had been assigned to monitor Vakari communications. Most were heavily encrypted, but occasionally unguarded transmissions slipped through. She nearly dropped her coffee when one such message appeared on her screen. "Lieutenant," she called to her supervisor, "I've intercepted something." The message was clear. "Humans are particularly malleable due to their obsession with appearing civilized. Their diplomatic protocols limit their strategic options. Conquest assessment. Minimal resistance expected." The lieutenant immediately sent the intercept up the chain of command. That same day, a small human research vessel called the Galileo was stationed near Neptune. Its crew of 27 scientists were studying the planet's atmospheric storms when a Vakari patrol ship approached. "Vakari vessel, this is the Galileo," the captain transmitted. "We're conducting approved research in this sector." "You have entered a restricted zone," came the reply. "Remove your vessel immediately." The captain checked his charts in confusion. "There's no restricted zone on our maps. We received no notification of—" A bright beam shot from the Vakari ship, cutting through the Galileo's hull. Emergency alarms blared as the research vessel began to break apart. Only 3 emergency beacons launched before the ship exploded completely. News of the destruction reached Earth hours later. Ambassador Daniels was called from negotiations to an emergency meeting. 27 people, Secretary General Lopez said, her voice tight with anger. "Scientists, not military. The Vakari ambassador claims it was a restricted zone that we violated," Daniels replied. "But there was no such zone on any charts they provided us. They called the deaths regrettable casualties of misunderstanding," General Harris added, her face grim. "Then immediately requested we continue our discussions of their protection agreement." While the diplomats continued their facade of negotiations, General Harris quietly accelerated Earth's military preparations. Ship captains received sealed orders. Weapon systems that had been hidden from the Vakari were activated. Civilian ships began evacuating non-essential personnel from outlying bases under the guise of routine rotations. Dr. Owens worked day and night analyzing Vakari language patterns. "There's something important we're missing," she told her team. "Their formal diplomatic language doesn't match their internal communications." At Jupiter Station, engineers led by Paul Martinez discovered something disturbing in the Vakari communication relays. "They're mapping everything," he reported to UNSC headquarters. "Defense systems, population centers, resource stockpiles. This isn't diplomatic. It's pre-invasion intelligence gathering." 26 days after the protection agreement had been presented, a civilian transport carrying colonists from Mars to Earth was intercepted by a Vakari scout ship. "Your vessel is approaching a Vakari diplomatic craft too closely," the Vakari commander transmitted. "Alter course immediately." The transport captain began to comply, but the Vakari opened fire anyway. 140 civilians died as the transport broke apart. The Vakari later claimed the human ship had made an aggressive course change that threatened their vessel. Ambassador Daniels was presenting the latest round of proposed modifications to the protection agreement when news of the transport's destruction reached him. He received the message on his tablet, read it calmly, and set the device down on the negotiation table. "Is there a problem, Ambassador?" the Vakari representative asked, noticing the pause. "You just destroyed a civilian transport carrying families and children," Daniels said, his voice surprisingly calm. "An unfortunate incident." The Vakari replied dismissively. The vessel strayed too close to our ship. But let us continue with these negotiations. Your time to accept our generous offer grows short. Daniels looked at the Vakari, then at his human colleagues. Something had changed in his expression. Before we continue, I have a question, Daniels said. The Polaris Confederation, what happened to them after they rejected your protection agreement? The Vakari's skin shifted color slightly. They proved unsuitable for inclusion in our consensus. Their resources now serve a greater purpose. You wiped them out, Daniels translated. How many other species have met similar fates? 3 species who rejected similar offers no longer exist as distinct civilizations, the Vakari stated matter-of-factly. Resource management is sometimes necessary for galactic stability. Daniels nodded slowly, then calmly shut down his tablet. He stood up straight and looked the Vakari leader directly in its eyes. Humanity is officially turning off politeness mode now, he said quietly. The Vakari delegation looked at each other, their skin rippling with colors that their cultural attaché had explained indicated amusement. An empty threat from a species that can barely leave its own solar system, the lead Vakari said, standing to leave. Your answer is due in 4 days. Choose wisely for the survival of your kind. As the Vakari delegation returned to their shuttle, 6 of their scout vessels patrolling the outer solar system simultaneously exploded. The hidden human stealth ships that destroyed them immediately cloaked again and changed position. Alarms blared throughout the Vakari command ship. The sudden destruction of 6 scout vessels was impossible to explain. The Vakari fleet commander turned to his second-in-command, his skin flashing deep red. How could primitive humans destroy our ships? They have no weapons that can penetrate our shields. Unknown, Commander, the ship simply exploded, no warning, no detected weapon signatures. On Earth, the United Nations Security Council gathered in an emergency session deep underground. Ambassador Daniels stood before the assembled leaders, his face grim but determined. The time for talking is over, he said. The Vakari have shown their true intentions. They've killed our people and plan to enslave or destroy us. Secretary, General Lopez nodded slowly. You're certain diplomacy has failed? They mistake politeness for weakness and restraint for fear, Daniels replied. They respect only strength. Dr. Owens has confirmed this through their language patterns. Dr. Lisa Owens stepped forward with her findings. She displayed translations of internal Vakari communications on the main screen. Their diplomatic language is deliberately designed to make other species feel inferior, she explained. But I've discovered something crucial in their cultural references. They view politeness as submission. In their culture, only the weak are polite. The strong make demands. General Harris took the floor next. 3 days ago, I activated Operation Silent Shield. Our stealth ships destroyed those Vakari scouts as a warning shot. But we need to move to full war footing immediately. The Council voted unanimously to authorize military action. After years of keeping their most advanced weapons, secret humanity was ready to reveal its true strength. At the Mars Defense Command, Captain Eric Taylor received new orders. His ship, along with 20 others, had been fitted with weapons the Vakari didn't know existed. Technology that Earth had been developing in secret for decades. Prepare jump drives, Taylor ordered his crew. We're moving to position Alpha. The USS Defiant and its sister ships vanished from their orbits, using technology the Vakari believed humans didn't possess. Dr. Alan Brooks worked with military strategists to predict Vakari responses. Based on historical patterns, they'll launch a punitive strike. They always do this to species that resist, hit hard and fast to break morale. Let them come, General Harris replied. We're ready. The Vakari ambassador demanded an immediate meeting with Earth's leadership. Ambassador Daniels met him in the same conference room as before, but this time he didn't smile or offer pleasantries. 6 of our vessels were destroyed by your primitive species, the Vakari ambassador said, his skin rippling with anger. This act of aggression cannot be tolerated. Interesting, Daniels replied coldly. When you destroyed our research vessel and killed 27 people, you called it a regrettable casualty of misunderstanding. When you destroyed our transport and killed 140 civilians, It was an unfortunate incident. But when we destroy 6 of your unmanned scout ships, it's an act of aggression? The Vakari's vertical pupils narrowed. You have made a grave error. The protection agreement is now withdrawn. The Vakari consensus will now demonstrate the price of defiance. No, Daniel said, standing up. You made the error. You judged us by our diplomatic behavior. You never asked why a species that evolved from predators chooses to be polite. The Vakari ambassador turned to leave. Your species will be remembered as a minor footnote in galactic history. One last thing, Daniels called after him. Those destroyed scout ships? That wasn't our military. That was just a small demonstration. 12 hours later, the Vakari launched their attack. A fleet of 50 warships jumped into position around Earth, weapons charged. They expected to face a primitive defense force that would crumble quickly. Instead, they found Earth surrounded by a defense grid that hadn't been there before. Orbital platforms equipped with energy weapons more advanced than their own. Hundreds of small fighter craft emerging from hidden bases on the moon. The Vakari commander was stunned. How is this possible? Our scans showed nothing like this. On the main Earth defense platform, engineer Michelle Rodriguez monitored the shield systems she had helped design. For 20 years, humanity had been analyzing fragments of alien technology found on Mars. The Vakari weren't the first aliens to visit the solar system, just the first to make contact. Shields holding at 97%, she reported as the Vakari ships opened fire. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. In orbit around Jupiter, Captain Taylor and his fleet appeared suddenly behind the Vakari reserve forces. All ships, target their engine cores. Fire when ready. The human ships launched missiles that bypassed the Vakari shields completely. The alien ships hadn't detected the approach of Taylor's fleet, and now they were caught between 2 forces. In her lab, Dr. Owens had cracked the Vakari command codes. We can predict their movements, she told General Harris. They use standardized attack patterns. The general smiled grimly. Send the tactical data to all fleet commanders. The Vakari commander watched in horror as his carefully planned attack fell apart. Human ships seemed to anticipate every move. Their weapons penetrated shields that had never failed before, and their defense systems absorbed damage that should have destroyed them. How, he demanded of his tactical officer, how can they have this technology? Unknown, Commander. We are detecting energy signatures we've never seen before. On Earth, Ambassador Daniels watched the battle from the command center. They thought we'd be easy prey, he said to Secretary General Lopez beside him. They never considered we might be hiding our true capabilities. Why would they? Lopez replied. In their culture, strength is always displayed. The concept of strategic deception is foreign to them. The battle raged for hours. Vakari ships that had subjugated dozens of alien species found themselves outmaneuvered by humans. The aliens had superior numbers, but humans had the element of surprise and fought with desperate determination. Major Frank Russell led a special operations team on a stealth shuttle. His mission: infiltrate the Vakari flagship while its shields were focused on the main battle. Team ready, he reported as their black shuttle approached the massive alien vessel. No signs they've detected us. His team of 12 soldiers wore advanced combat suits that rendered them nearly invisible to Vakari sensors. They attached to the hull of the flagship and cut their way inside. Remember, Russell told his team, our priority is their central database. We need to know everything about their empire. The team moved through the Vakari ship like ghosts. The aliens were focused on the battle outside and never noticed the humans accessing their most sensitive information systems. Download complete, Russell's tech specialist reported after they reached the main computer core. We have their entire strategic database. As the human team extracted, Russell planted special devices throughout the ship. Not bombs, but advanced transmitters that would continue sending intelligence back to Earth. The Vakari commander finally ordered a retreat. Of his 50 ships, 23 had been destroyed, and 15 more were badly damaged. The humans had lost ships too, but far fewer than expected. As the Vakari fleet jumped away from Earth, Ambassador Daniels turned to General Harris. This is just the beginning, he said. They'll be back with a larger force. And we'll be ready, Harris replied. Operation Silent Shield worked perfectly. Now we move to Phase 2. Across the solar system, hidden human fleets emerged from their concealed bases. Weapons platforms activated around every human colony. For decades, humanity had been preparing for this moment while presenting a peaceful face to the stars. The war had begun, and humanity had won the first battle. The Vakari Supreme Command was in chaos. Reports of their defeat at Earth spread quickly through their fleet. Never before had a developing species repelled their forces so effectively. Impossible, the Vakari Emperor hissed, his skin flashing, dark patterns of rage. Humans were assessed as a minor threat. Explain this failure. Fleet Admiral Zorix bowed low. The humans concealed their true military capabilities, Emperor. They presented themselves as diplomatically inclined while secretly preparing for war. A deception that cost us greatly, the Emperor said. Prepare the Grand Armada. We will crush this insolence completely. Across the solar system, humanity prepared for the next phase of the conflict. Captain Eric Taylor, now promoted to Admiral, after his successful surprise attack, directed the defense of the outer planets. They'll return with a much larger force, he told his captains during a secure briefing. We won the first battle through surprise. We won't have that advantage again. At the lunar shipyards hidden on the far side of the moon, engineer Michelle Rodriguez worked with her team around the clock. The technology recovered from Major Russell's raid on the Vakari flagship provided valuable insights. Their shield frequencies can be targeted precisely, she explained to General Harris during a video call. We're modifying all weapons systems accordingly. How long? The general asked. 72 hours for the entire fleet, Michelle replied. But we're prioritizing the frontline ships. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Owens made another breakthrough in understanding the Vakari. She burst into Ambassador Daniel's office without knocking. They're terrified, she said excitedly. I've analyzed their communications from the battle. They don't understand how we hid our capabilities from them. Daniels looked up from his desk. How does this help us? In their entire history, they've never encountered a species that practiced strategic deception. Their society values displays of strength. The idea of appearing weak while secretly being strong doesn't exist in their culture. Daniels smiled slowly. So they don't know what else we might be hiding. Exactly, Dr. Owens confirmed. We can use this psychological advantage. Major Frank Russell studied the intelligence gathered from the Vakari flagship. The data revealed the true extent of the Vakari Empire. Hundreds of star systems under their control, dozens of species either enslaved or eradicated. They've done this many times before, he reported to the United Nations Security Council. Find a developing species, offer protection, then either enslave them or wipe them out if they resist. Secretary General Lopez frowned. But they've never failed before? Never, Russell confirmed. Which makes us unique. We're the first to bloody their nose. Samantha Wright, now heading Earth's Intelligence Division, discovered something crucial in the Vakari files. They have a hierarchical command structure. Their ships can't act independently. They need constant direction from their command vessels. Admiral Taylor immediately saw the strategic opportunity. If we can disrupt their command communications, we can render their fleet uncoordinated, Wright finished. 3 weeks after the first battle, the Vakari returned. This time with over 300 warships. Their massive fleet jumped into the solar system beyond Neptune's orbit, ready to crush human resistance. But humanity was waiting for them. As soon as the Vakari fleet appeared, specialized human vessels activated jamming devices that disrupted the aliens' command network. Suddenly, the precisely coordinated Vakari battle groups couldn't communicate with each other. Admiral Taylor's voice came over all human military channels. All ships, execute Operation War Mode. Target their command vessels first. Human ships appeared from hidden positions in the asteroid belt, from inside the atmospheres of gas giants where they couldn't be detected, and from stealth positions near Earth and Mars. They struck hard at the confused Vakari fleet. On the Vakari flagship, Emperor's Wrath, the commander struggled to regain control of his forces. Restore communications. Why can't we reach our battle Groups? His communications officer worked frantically at his console. Unknown human technology is blocking all channels. Our ships can't receive orders. In the asteroid belt, Admiral Taylor led a daring attack run against the Vakari heavy cruisers. His smaller, more agile ships weaved between the massive rocks, while the larger Vakari vessels struggled to maneuver. Use the asteroids as cover, he ordered his fleet. Hit and fade attacks only. Don't let them bring their main guns to bear. On Mars, defense platforms that had been disguised as mining equipment revealed their true nature. Powerful rail guns launched projectiles at near-light speed, tearing through Vakari ships that ventured too close to the Red Planet. Engineer Michelle Rodriguez monitored the battle from Earth's defense headquarters. The modified weapons are working, she reported to General Harris. Their shields can't adapt fast enough. The Vakari had never faced an enemy like humanity. Humans fought differently, not with overwhelming force, but with cunning, deception, and adaptability. Where the Vakari expected frontal assaults, humans struck from hiding places. When the Vakari prepared for one type of attack, humans changed tactics completely. Major Russell led another special operations mission, this time with 30 teams targeting multiple Vakari vessels simultaneously. Their objective wasn't to destroy the ships, but to plant advanced AI viruses in their computer systems. Team 7 in position, Russell reported as his soldiers attached to the hull of a Vakari dreadnought, preparing to access their systems. Dr. Owens had created these viruses based on her understanding of Vakari language and computer architecture. Once planted, they would slowly corrupt navigation data, shield frequencies, and weapon targeting systems. Remember, Russell told his own teams, these need to look like equipment failures, not sabotage. The Vakari need to think their technology is failing them. Meanwhile, Ambassador Daniels implemented another part of humanity's strategy. He sent a message directly to the Vakari Emperor. Your fleet is being decimated, he said calmly. But we are prepared to discuss terms if you withdraw now. The Emperor was enraged. You dare to offer terms to the Vakari consensus? We have conquered galaxies. And yet you're losing to us, Daniels replied simply. Consider your position carefully. The battle raged for days. The Vakari lost ship after ship while struggling to adapt to human tactics. Their rigid command structure became their greatest weakness. Without clear orders, many Vakari captains simply held position and waited, making them easy targets. Admiral Taylor pushed the advantage. All ships, focus fire on their flagship. Let's cut off the head of the snake. Human vessels converged on the Emperor's wrath from multiple directions. The massive Vakari ship's defenses were formidable, but the coordinated attack overwhelmed them. Precision strikes disabled its engines and weapons. Inside the Vakari flagship, the Emperor faced a situation no Vakari ruler had encountered before. Defeat at the hands of a supposedly inferior species. How is this possible? He demanded as his ship shuddered under human attacks. They were primitive only months ago. His advisor's skin had turned pale blue, the Vakari color of fear. They deceived us, Emperor. They showed us what they wanted us to see. As the Emperor's flagship lost power and drifted helplessly, human forces pressed their advantage throughout the solar system. The Vakari fleet, already disorganized, began to fall back without their supreme commander's guidance. General Harris watched the battle displays from Earth Command. They're retreating, she announced. Operation War Mode has succeeded. Secretary General Lopez turned to Ambassador Daniels. What happens now? Daniels' expression was grim but determined. Now we take the fight to them. We can't allow them to regroup and return. Humanity has turned off politeness mode permanently where the Vakari are concerned. 6 months had passed since the defeat of the Vakari fleet in the solar system. Humanity had not wasted any time. With the data gathered from captured Vakari ships, Earth engineers had reverse-engineered their faster-than-light drive technology. The human fleet, once confined to the solar system, now prepared to venture into Vakari space. Admiral Eric Taylor stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, now the flagship of humanity's first interstellar battle group. 20 ships hovered in formation behind him, ready for their first jump. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his first officer said. Taylor nodded. "Send the signal. Jump in 30 seconds." Throughout the solar system, humanity had united as never before. Old conflicts between Earth and colony worlds faded in the face of the alien threat. Ambassador Kevin Daniels, now serving as Earth's Director of Interstellar Relations, addressed the United Nations one last time before departing with the fleet. "We go not as conquerors, but as liberators," he told the assembled leaders. "The Valkyrie Empire holds dozens of species in bondage. Today we bring them the hope of freedom." The human battle group arrived at their first target, a Valkyrie outpost near the edge of their territory. The aliens were completely unprepared for humans to appear in their own space. The battle was over in minutes, with minimal casualties on both sides. In the outpost control center, Major Frank Russell and his team discovered something unexpected: prison cells holding aliens from various species. "Who are you?" asked a tall, slender being with 4 arms and iridescent skin. "Humans," Russell replied. "We're from Earth." The alien's eyes widened. "The Defiant Ones? We heard rumors that someone had defeated a Valkyrie fleet, but we didn't believe it was possible." "Believe it," Russell said as he opened the cell doors. "And spread the word. The days of Valkyrie dominance are ending." As the human fleet pushed deeper into Valkyrie territory, they found more subject species. Some had been enslaved for centuries, others for only decades. All shared stories of Valkyrie cruelty and the fate of those who resisted their protection. Dr. Lisa Owens made contact with representatives from each species, learning their languages and histories. She discovered that many had advanced technologies that complemented human innovations. "If we combine our knowledge," she told General Harris, "during a secure transmission, we can create a force the Valkyrie can't match." On the Valkyrie homeworld, panic spread through the ruling council. Emperor Zoltan demanded explanations from his advisors. "How are these humans advancing so quickly? How did they reach our territory?" Fleet Admiral Zorix trembled as he replied, "They captured our jump drive technology, Emperor, and they are unpredictable. They don't fight according to any known tactical doctrine." "They must be stopped," the Emperor declared. "Recall all fleets. Defend the core worlds at all costs." The Valkyrie pulled their forces back from hundreds of outlying systems, abandoning their subject worlds to concentrate their defenses. It was exactly what humanity had hoped for. Engineer Michelle Rodriguez had developed specialized communication devices that allowed the liberated species to coordinate their own rebellions. As Valkyrie ships withdrew, local uprisings broke out across the Empire. "It's working," Samantha Wright reported to Admiral Taylor. "The Valkyrie are losing control of 80% of their territory." 6 weeks into the campaign, humanity had not yet engaged the main Valkyrie fleet. Instead, they struck at supply depots, communication relays, and military outposts, always appearing suddenly and vanishing before significant resistance could be mounted. Ambassador Daniels made regular broadcasts throughout Valkyrie space, transmitted on frequencies that all species could receive. "The Valkyrie claimed to bring order and protection," he told the watching billions. "Instead, they brought subjugation and fear. Humanity offers a different path, a galactic community of equals, where no species dominates another." Dr. Alan Brooks documented what he called the human paradox that confused the Valkyrie so completely. "They cannot understand how a species can be both peaceful and deadly," he explained to the United Nations Science Council. "In their culture, you display your strength at all times. The concept of restraint as a choice rather than weakness is foreign to them." After 3 months of systematic dismantling of the Valkyrie Empire, Emperor Zoltan finally requested direct communication with human leadership. On the bridge of the USS Defiant, Admiral Taylor and Ambassador Daniels received the transmission. The Emperor's skin displayed subdued colors, a sign of humility that no human had seen from a Valkyrie before. "Your species has proven unexpected," the Emperor said carefully. "We request an end to hostilities and propose negotiations." "We're listening," Daniels replied, his face revealing nothing. "The Valkyrie consensus offers recognition of human Independence and territory. We will withdraw all claims on your solar system. Daniels shook his head. Not enough. What about the other species you've enslaved? The Emperor's skin darkened slightly. Their status is not your concern. That's where you're wrong, Taylor cut in. We've seen what you've done to them. Their freedom is non-negotiable. The negotiations continued for weeks. The Vakari, facing rebellion throughout their territory and a human fleet that could strike anywhere at will, gradually conceded to human demands. A new galactic order began to take shape. 10 months after the Vakari had first arrived in Earth's solar system with their protection agreement, a formal peace treaty was signed on neutral ground, a space station orbiting a star at the boundary between human and Vakari space. Emperor Zoltan himself came to sign the treaty, the first time in Vakari history that an emperor had left their homeworld to meet with another species as equals. Ambassador Daniels represented humanity, with leaders from 12 formerly subjugated species also present. This treaty recognizes the independence of all intelligent species, Daniels announced as the document was displayed for all to see. No more conquests, no more subjugation. After the formal ceremony, a young Vakari diplomat approached Samantha, Wright, who now served as Earth's chief intelligence officer. There is something we do not understand about humans, the Vakari said hesitantly. How do you maintain such duality? You were peaceful, then devastating, diplomatic, then ruthless. Samantha smiled. Politeness isn't weakness. It's a choice. We're polite because we choose to be, not because we have to be. War mode has always been there, just dormant. The Vakari considered this. And now? Will you remain in this war mode? That depends, Samantha replied. We prefer peace, but will never again be mistaken for weak. As humanity took its place in the galactic community, stories spread among the stars of the species that had defeated the mighty Vakari, not through overwhelming force or superior numbers, but through deception, adaptability, and the strategic use of restraint. Dr. Owens perhaps explained it best during her address to the first meeting of the Galactic Council, where humanity took its seat alongside 20 other species. Throughout our history on Earth, we learned that true strength lies not in constant displays of power, but in knowing when to use it. The Vakari taught us an important lesson too. Never mistake politeness for weakness, because when humanity turns off politeness mode, the consequences are severe indeed.